you call them a proselyte, or a Ger Toshav, for example. Okay, so we've established that they are Baptists. The Baptists are baptized people. They are God-fearers. And this is very important, especially, Fratino and Prato's work is extremely important to understand the relationship with the Ger Toshav. They have a lot of root on this, discussion on this, on Teshuvah, people who are responding to the call from God. There's an awful lot to read in this section, and I think it's very important to try and work through that if you want to know more about it, and the relationship with the Ger Toshav. Now, of course, the Ger Toshav is a status of one part of God's people throughout history, but who are not Israelites. They're not children of Israel. Okay, they might be patrilineally children of Israel, but they are not Jews. They don't have a maternal line which comes from Israel. They're not matrilineally Jewish. They're not matrilineally Jewish. I'm having trouble saying that word. They're not matrilineally Jewish. Patrilineally, maybe, but that's irrelevant, because if your father is Jewish but your mother's not Jewish, you're not Jewish. You're only Jewish if your mother is Jewish. And even then, only if it's within 3 generations. So if your mother's mother is Jewish, okay, you're still Jewish. If your mother's mother's mother is Jewish, okay, you're still Jewish. What about if your mother's 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 mother was Jewish? Too bad, you're not Jewish, because it's too far. It only lasts 3 generations. So, but you're still a descendant of Israel. But what should your status be? Well, you should be living as a Noahide. You become a Ger Toshav, just like everybody else who is called by God's name, just like the Gentiles who are called by God's name. They are also Toshav, Ger Toshav as well. Gerim. So Hagerim, the Gerim, which is where we get the word Hagarenes from as well. Hagarenes or Hagerim. So this is another sort of way of referring to the same baptized people who are baptized into the faith, but they are not of the circumcision. They are not Jewish. Okay, and the story is there with Moses and the Israelites when they come out of Egypt. They are the mixed multitude which come out of Egypt. All the other slaves who are freed, because it's not just the Jews who are freed from Egypt. It was all the slaves who were freed, and the slaves came from many nations. And even many Egyptians who were not slaves at all just realized that God is with these people. They went along too, and other nations who had heard about the miraculous events happening, they went and followed as well. So in the end, there was a mixed multitude which went up out of Egypt with the Israelites. And that mixed multitude is called the Erev Rav, which is actually the origin, according to the Pharisaical tradition, of the word Arab. So you have 2 kinds of people leaving Egypt, Jews and Arabs. But Arab here doesn't mean what we think of Arab. It means the original people who became the Arabs, which is basically a mixed multitude of many different groups who, over the centuries, have come to become a homogeneous group, which we called Arabs, but at that time were a mixed multitude of every kind of nation that you could think of, who had come out of Egypt. Now, this mixed group of people, the Erev Rav, the Arab, if you like, at that time, were not very educated about monotheism. They didn't descend from Abraham. They didn't know about the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. They were just so totally impressed by the miraculous power of the God of these Israelites, and they were going to follow them wherever they go. So sort of a foreshadow of that verse from Zechariah: "We will follow you wherever you go, because we have heard that God is with you." This is basically the attitude of the Erev Rav. Wherever you go, we're going with you because God is with you. We've seen the signs. We understand that God is with you guys, and we want to be with you. We want to share some of the blessings that we want to have God, because your God is God. It's not just some kind of tribal spirit or national spirit. This is a real powerful deity we're talking about, and we want to be your people. We want to be part of you. Your people are our people. My people are your people. We want to be the same. So they followed them, but they didn't really have understanding beyond wanting to be part of this people of God. And so they get the basic 10 commandments. They hear the miracle of the mountain, where the mountain towers over them. It's called the coerced covenant. They're terrified. They hear the Ten Commandments. They hear they have to build an altar. And then they say, please, Moses, go up and hear for the rest for us, because we're terrified. We don't know what's going to happen. We'll die if we listen to this, because it's so terrifying for them. So Moses says, don't be afraid. But in the end, he's okay, I'll go. So he goes up to the mountain, and these people, after being scared out of their wits, they feel like they need to worship this God somehow. But they don't really understand that they have been told not to make any images and bow down and worship them. I am the Lord your God. They think, okay, well, we've got to do something to worship and honor this God. So they make the golden calf while he's up in the mountains, which is a breach of the first commandment. Now, many of the Israelites already know, sorry, not the first commandment, the second commandment. Many of Israelites already know that that's not to be done, so they don't get involved. But Aaron gets persuaded to try and smooth over things and try and work with the Erev Rav to try and sort them out. So Aaron becomes a bit of a symbol of a prophet to the nations at this point, because he is not behaving like an Israelite prophet. He's behaving more like a prophet of the Erev Rav. Anyway, Moses comes down the mountain, finds the whole thing, very upset. He smashes the tablets of stone, and people are told to repent, and those who don't repent are destroyed. But nevertheless, the Erev Rav, part of them repented, and they then get the rest of the covenant at Mount Sinai, where there are laws given to the children of Israel, there are laws given to the Jews, and there are laws given to the Gerim as well. And so they get the laws of the Gerim. According to Rav Yeshayahu Hollander, it's 66 laws under 7 categories, which are given to the Gerim at that time. So they get the covenant of Mount Sinai, but it's 66 laws for the Gerim. That is the ones who have become converts from the Erev Rav, from the Arab. They get 66 laws under 7 categories, which are the Sheva Mitzvot. And the rest of the Jews get 613 laws to observe, which is much more demanding. But nevertheless, from that time, from Mount Sinai, they have been grafted into the Hebrew nation without having to be Jews, but they are grafted in as Hebrews. And so that's how the origin of these Baptist group emerges. That's where the God-fearers come from. That's their history for the past 1400 years before the first century. And in the first century, they're called the God-fearers, and they are very much solidly part of